fact. My only criteria was you're breaking the first commandment.
But Pastor Bill was innocent.
Innocent? In your perspective, there's nothing
But not
worse,
yours.
There's nothing worse than breaking the first commandment. I drove from there to Phil's house like 2 in the morning on a Sunday night, and I executed him. It's fast. I mean, it's, you know, I didn't want it to be bloody. I didn't want it to be a painful. I'm not trying to torture the guy. I just wanted to execute him quickly. Put him in the cross position on the wall, and I screwed him to the wall. And then I had a crown of thorns I put on his head. So he's crucified against the wall, you know, in the image of Jesus. Because what I'm saying is, you know, what you're preaching is not what God said. It's the opposite of what God said.
Charles, we just watched an interview of what I believe is a man who is a terrorist, who targeted a specific group of religious men who he felt had deviated from the true teachings of the Bible, and it was his divine duty and divine right in his sick mind to kill them as quick as he can. I wonder why law enforcement didn't call this man a terrorist. I wonder why the media didn't label that this was a terrorist attack, where a religious figure was murdered and killed for just being a Christian pastor or a Christian priest. I find it ironic we can easily and quickly do it when some Muslim guy does it in this country. But he's just as wicked as any quote-unquote Islamic terrorist, because that so-called Christian terrorist right there is just as wicked, but he's not being called that.
This monster, this murderer, who has been appropriately labeled a sociopath, a psychopath, a monster, a murderer, he's an evil person who is so evil that he put somebody on a wall and crucified him. And now you're talking about the appropriateness of crucifying people and slandering people. It's absurd. But let's go to the semantic parsing of terrorist, right? A terrorist is a part of an organization, right? We can name, you know, any.
You don't have to be part of an organization.
Hold on. Yes, you do.
To
right?
be a terrorist,
So you have Hamas, right? You have all the ones that come to mind, right? That are all tied to the Islamic religion that find their justification in the book, right? And they use actual passages of the Quran.
Like what that man did. Talking about the first commandment.
Actually, he didn't cite anything.
He's talking about the first commandment.
He referred to the first commandment.
They are not obeying the first commandment.
Okay.
They violated the first commandment. He did.
Right. He did point that out, but then he didn't go to another passage and say, this justifies
Well, how
me
many he got
killing.
to go to?